Hi, everybody. I want to speak to you about like part two of my continuation of the video I just sent out, where I spoke about a network of grace. And the response from so many of you was very positive. So I'm going to pursue that idea with you today and talk to you about what it would mean if I went ahead and started to do videos on this to see if it's really something a lot of you are interested in. What I would do is a weekly video and in which I would discuss topics that would enhance your understanding of what it would mean to be connected to a network of grace, what you would have to understand about that, and what your participation in it would be. This would be free. I just send it out once a week for you. But on my end, it would be kind of like a mini class in which every week I would do something on the nature of grace, on the nature of prayer, on the nature of on the mystical laws, because a network of grace is in fact a mystical circuitry. It is part of spiritual alchemy, of the invisible holy realm. And as I said in the previous video, I think we've reached a place in time in our evolution where the reality of our internet, which operates exactly like the internet, is being revealed to us. In fact, I really believe the internet was inspired by the fact that they figured out that we are interconnected, that we are all interconnected. And that why shouldn't we use our internet with the same conscious awareness that we use the internet with, that we connect on our inner with that same intention of being of support to each other, of sending grace to each other, of sending prayer to each other. Years ago, I've told this story, but I'm going to tell it again. I don't know how many times I've told it, but some stories are worth the retelling. And I was on my way back from a workshop in London. And my driver, the woman who was assigned to drive me back to London, when we got in the car, she said, "Let me tell you my story." And, honestly, after you've taught all day, you really don't want to keep talking. You just want to be quiet and get delivered to your hotel. But she was the sweetest woman. I said, "Okay, tell me," right? And this is where you just have to be open again and again and again. I learned the truth that there's no such thing as an accident or a coincidence, and every person you meet is a gift in some way. In some way, anyway. So she told me about her accident, and that she had a car accident. She was smashed, and she had a near-death experience. And as you could tell, I'm quite intrigued by near-death experiences recently. It's all come back to my life. And she found herself hovering over her car. And she saw her shattered body. And the fascinating things was, one, she could hear the responses of everybody in the cars that were now forced to wait because her car was shattered and they had to wait for an ambulance and police and all of that. She could hear them. She could hear people saying, like, "Damn it, this is just what I don't need," and this kind of thing. And she said out of the fifth car, she saw a beam of light shoot up to the cosmos and then come directly into her. And she thought, "What is that?" And instantly, she was sitting next to this woman, a total stranger, who had gone into prayer for her. Total stranger, who had begun to immediately pray for her. And she was so moved by that, even in her ethereal state, that she thought, "Who is this person?" And immediately she saw the license plate of the car. And then her angel said, "No, you've got to get back. This isn't your time." And even that, "it isn't your time," is worth a long discussion with you. What is that about? At any rate, she remembered the license plate number. And the angel said to her, her angel said, "You have to get back. It's not your time. And it's going to be a difficult recovery, which it was. It took her 6 months. But at the end of that, she tracked that woman down. She tracked her down. And she went to her house with a bouquet of flowers. And she said, I know you prayed for me, and I want to thank you. I know you prayed. And those prayers mattered, and they were delivered to her. That alone is worth chatting with you about, which is the power of prayer and the power of what it means to realize that we are that intimately linked. As I've said to you for so many years now, for my students, this is a very impersonal universe. There's nothing personal. I've said God is love, light, and law. That's how you should know the three elements of God: love, light, and law. All consistent. Very impersonal. The law of gravity. If all of us jump off a building, I can promise you we will all fall. And even if you have a parachute, it'll take you longer, but you're going to go down. And light is that element that everybody sees. Even if you go back and you read the scripture, it is light that first appears when there's an apparition. It is always light. And love is something we could talk about forever and ever. But when I use the word love in this context, I am not speaking about romantic love or even the love between friends. When I speak about love in the nature of God, it is a love that is undefinable. And the way we experience, I think, that love is the name that we've given to what God feels like to us. The closest feeling that we have of what the nature of God feels like to us is what we've called love. That it is that ferocious bond between human beings. It is that incredible force that gives people endurance, that gives people hope, that gives people a reason to live. There is no other force in our soul that can do that. You can feel compassion for someone, but it doesn't give you endurance. You can feel charity, you can feel hope, but none of it, none of those forces can do what love can do. None. Love is that force that gives you the capacity to sit by a bedside day after day after day. Love is a force of life itself. It is the nature of God. And truly, it is my belief that the journey we are on here, this journey we share as human beings, can be summarized by saying it is the journey of our experiencing our love of power, the power we assign to stuff, to finally experiencing the power of love. And that it is endless. That power is endless, and it is that power that has the capacity to transform, to go where stuff cannot go. It is that power that has the capacity to inspire, to transform our world, to support each other, to do what stuff cannot do, right? So that is the nature of God. It's love, light, and law. And when we think of laws, and you think your body's run by laws, your body's run by the law of mathematics. The law of mathematics runs your heart. It has to be so many heartbeats per minute, and as soon as it gets beyond certain numbers, it's a crisis. Below, above, your blood pressure is law. The number of times we blink our eyes, everything is law. Everything is subject to law and math. And this is the nature of God, consistent, total consistency. And here's the operative word. It's very impersonal. The laws of our bio-spiritual ecology We're not created for any one of us. There's nothing personal about the laws that govern us. And yet, the universe is incredibly intimate. This is where mysticism comes in. That in ways we will never comprehend, because we can't comprehend it. We matter. Each of us matters in ways we can't figure out. We matter more to this universe than we do to each other, believe it or not. We matter more to this universe than we do to each other. And every one of our choices, every one of our thoughts are somehow logged in ways we will never understand. Every prayer we utter is heard and answered, and in ways, not logical ways, but mystical ways. And I want to talk to you about that. And this is what I will do week after week as I encourage us to build this network of life, light, and connection to each other. Because I think it's important to not just jump into this network as if it's a fun thing to do or the latest thing, but that you actually get. It's part of the organic nature of the divine. It is, it's really the decision to tap into your organically sacred design and to make use of your, what you would call your energy system, but actually you're extending it to your grace system, to your anatomy of grace, to your higher altitude, to your mystical consciousness, to actually participating and activating the consciousness of your soul. And instead of using these words as if they're just there, this is the force of your life, and you are engaging in that power. And what when you study the teachings of Buddha, you're studying the teachings of Jesus. This is the force they were talking about all the time. All the time. I mean, when they were talking about the force of your inner world, not your outer world, but your interior world, the part of you that goes on forever, that slips out of the body and continues on forever, the part that is not subject to time and space. So the part that knows the laws, that incarnated with the laws in your system. I really think that when enough people are linked and are channeling light and love to each other and to this a network around the world, it changes the quality of thought. I remember one time when President George Bush said, W. Bush, the younger one, said in a most, what I thought was quite an insightful comment, and he said the country was psychically depressed. And I thought that was quite the observation, and it was, because he sensed a collective darkness. And, and I did a series called The Phoenix right after, just when we went into, not quarantine, but, when the epidemic hit, when the pandemic hit, and we couldn't go anywhere. And I did this series because I wanted to explain to people that the pandemic was something that we actually in some ways were anticipating, because the collective has now for some time been expecting some kind of big thing to happen, as if we've been expecting some big earth change, some big nuclear explosion, some big something to break through what we feel like is this suffocating psychic field that we've been in. But what I think the breakthrough really is us deciding to actually wake up and start utilizing the light, start utilizing our own light, start participating consciously. This is what this whole business of consciousness is about, is to utilize consciousness. You know, when I pray, which I'm inclined to do all the time, I actually picture myself walking through the the bombed zones of Ukraine. I picture myself walking through those areas or standing next to people that have asked for prayers. I picture myself channeling grace to them or to these areas because I deeply, totally believe that grace pours into that area. I have no idea how it is used. I have no idea, but I know it is. I know it is. I don't know how it comforts people who have lost people, but I know it does. And it is, and here's what something I want to emphasize. As we send grace to each other, it's a hands-off thing. You don't ever direct how it should be used, but that it should be used. But that it should be used. And that's part of the laws of creation. I mean, prayer is the conscious use of light. It's the conscious use of light. It is just like to lie is the conscious use of evil, is the conscious use of darkness, is the conscious intention to create negativity and to harm others, for which people are held accountable. Maybe not in front of you, but they will be. They will be. So the conscious use of light is what prayer is. So when we link up with each other and we send out requests to each other through, we'll set up a, what do you call it, a link on my website where you could request, I need prayers for this, I need prayers for that, or help me here. And there's an agreement made that I will send prayers every day, and this is what I need. And even if you put aside 5 minutes to do that, it's not how long, it's that you promise to do that consistently. You promise to do it consistently. And that is where the first commitment is that it's a commitment to be consistent, to be, here's the operative word, devoted. This isn't a religious thing. This is a sacred commitment to participate in a network of grace that supports your soul as much as it does the community of souls with whom you are already connected. Only now we're going to do it consciously. We're going to do it consciously. So the first, I'll leave you with a prayer today, but the first, the first next week, the next video I'm going to do will be on what is grace. What is grace? What exactly is grace? I can't squeeze it in now with the few minutes I have left here. So I'm going to start with explaining grace and how grace works in your life. And then with that, we'll talk about connecting to each other. And then we'll have a prayer. And that's how these videos will go. So from grace, and then I'll talk about prayer. And then I'll talk about how all life breathes together. I have a whole agenda here. And one week after another, we'll build on the mystical structure of the universe and the universe in which we are all sharing this incredible journey of life. So if this is appealing to you, let me know, and we're going to build a little site on my website, myss.com, for everybody to participate in so that everybody has an opportunity to be in touch with each other And that's where we're going to go. And hopefully in our own lives, we will share that grace with each other. Okay. So the prayer that I want to leave us with is, hover over me, God. Let your grace fall upon me. Let your grace be within me and around me. And let that grace flow into the lives of those who I love and those who I do not love, those who I know and those who I don't know. Let your grace surround this planet. Okay, everyone, be in touch with me and I'll be in touch with you. Thank you, everybody.